Welcome to the FMCG Guys, the podcast that dives into the innovation, strategy, and trends shaping consumer goods and retail in Europe and beyond.
Welcome to the FMCG Guys podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Torres. When I'm not hosting this podcast, I'm the Director of Executive Search at Dwyer Partners, recruiting top talents and leaders in the consumer goods and retail industries. And guess what type of people we speak here on this podcast? Well, indeed, with luminaries, leaders, and top talents in the consumer goods and retail industries. We are now over 150 episodes in, so do go into our website or on the podcast platform you're listening to us to check other episodes where you'll hear about other leaders, you'll get inspired, and most importantly, you'll be entertained. And remember, we're part of a family of podcasts which is headed by the CPG guys in the US, which we recommend you tune into. It's instead of FMCG guys, it's CPG guys, which is how they call this industry over the other side of the pond. Also, if you haven't yet, remember to follow us on LinkedIn, where you'll join a community of right now 14,000 members and counting. It may be 15,000 by the time this releases. Hopefully it will. And now you can also find us on Instagram, where you'll find our latest content and also some sneak peeks to upcoming content, which you won't find on LinkedIn. And this adventure wouldn't be the same without my two amazing co-hosts. One of them is Efrain Rosario, who unfortunately is not here with me, but here comes the good news. We have Christine Nicolau. Hi, Christine, how are you?
Hi, Daniel. I hope that I'm good news, the way that you put it. I'm doing well.
Well, that depends. Maybe the audience is hoping for a podcast which is hosted by Efrain and you, and they don't have to put up with me anymore.
Well, we'll have to arrange that at some point, no?
Yeah, we will. Let's see how the audience reacts. Maybe everybody will stop listening to it because I'm not
Maybe.
there. God knows. Is it too big of a bet?
I don't know. I think that it's A/B testing, let's call it.
Okay.
So we do the same one with you and without you.
So guys, if one day I'm not here, I will come back, hopefully. So today we're going to speak around e-commerce, specifically in the consumer electronics category, which is a category we've touched upon, but not that much. So really excited about that. And we're going to speak with someone who's seen it all. He's like been there for a long time. So he's done digital marketing basics, then he's done direct to consumer, and now he's focusing on Amazon, which basically, let's face it, the Seattle-based giant is still dominating the online scenario. So it's extremely relevant for many categories in consumer goods to know how Amazon works. So to talk and inform us and entertain us about that, we have no other than François Mayor, who's the head of Amazon Europe at Groupe SEB. Hey, François, how are you?
Hey, Daniel. Hey, Christine. Very good. Thank you. Thank you. Very happy for being part of the podcast. I've been following you. We know each other for more than a year and a half, Daniel. So really happy to be part of this podcast.
That's loyalty. So if anyone else is listening, that's the first time, it pays off to follow us, because then at some point you may be invited as a guest. So here goes a perk. So François, I was talking about how you've been in e-commerce for a long time. Can you tell us a bit about like how you went and like how you started your career and ended up in e-commerce?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I'm part of Groupe SEB for 15 years now, and I haven't started in digital and e-commerce from the very beginning. I started as an international business developer for kitchen electrics, managing Americas and the UK. And then I also had a position of product development on strategic marketing teams. And this is where I concretely jumped into digital, because the company launched a program in order to accelerate digital through the organization. And I got the mission to be a digital lead within the strategic marketing teams. And as I was working a lot with Anglo-Saxon markets that were ahead when it comes to e-commerce and digital, my role was to build the first steps or the first elements of our digital transformation to better address on the business side, but also on the communication side. So this is where I basically started with the first digital media plans, the first content for e-commerce that was initially mainly focused for offline with packaging. And I was getting into more pictures, videos, texts, but also the first connected products back in the times. And that was a moment where actually I had the opportunity or the chance to build one of the biggest influence buzz within the group, because at the time when I was working for the US market, we managed to get one of our products into Oprah Winfrey's hand, and she posted on Instagram and Twitter. So that was more than 10 years ago. So sorry, could you repeat?
What year was that?
It was in 2011, 2012, something like that.
Well, that wasn't the nascent time of like when we started speaking out influencers, like really early on.
Yeah, exactly. And Instagram was still at its early stage, and Twitter was developing crazy. So she posted a picture of her with one of our blockbusters on Twitter and Instagram. So it was millions and millions of reach, and that was great. So that was and it's still a case that I keep in mind as something I'm happy and proud of. So after this, I moved as digital lead for the French team. So basically building almost from scratch the digital plans, e-commerce, retail media, and CRM. And when the group decided to expand and accelerate on direct to consumer, I had the opportunities for 4 years to lead a team that was structuring and building the D2C strategy and capabilities for Europe.
Wow. And that's why Daniel said before that you have seen it all, and he did do you justice on that part. But François, you said you've been in Groupe SEB for many, many years, like 15 or something. Could you tell a little bit more about Groupe SEB and mainly your brands as well, so that our listeners really know what we're talking about here?
Yeah, sure. So Groupe SEB is a worldwide leader in small domestic appliances. So basically we are in the kitchen of almost all households in Europe, but also in America, South America, Asia. So from fryers to irons to vacuum cleaners. And we have many brands, international brands like Moulinex, Tefal, Rowenta, Krups, that you may know. But we also have some local brands that are only in some countries or some areas. And we're mainly operating on the consumer business for more than 150 years. And for about a decade, the group has also accelerated in the professional business kitchen too. First with the purchase of an integration of WMF, which is a worldwide leader in professional coffee machines that you may see in different bars, in different restaurants also. And we're expanding on those two different pillars now, strongly accelerating by external growth on professional business, but also internal one. And our focus is still the consumer business.
Yeah, and I think that the professional business, a lot of it is, it's interesting because you're Lyon based in France, but part of the professional business also has a stronghold in Germany, right?
Yeah, sure, exactly. But actually, we're also expanding in. So typically, we integrated a company that was the U.S. leader in brewing coffee machines, so filter coffee machines. So we're expanding either through international brands, but also very local brands to get some specific leadership in specific areas.
Fantastic. And so you started in digital around 2012. What appealed to you about digital back then? And if you had to paint a picture of the scenario of digital and e-commerce for a consumer electronics company, what did it look like?
So actually, what brought me to digital? I think I grew up with digital. So I'm part of this. Like we are kind of the first generation who grew with digital, and also because I consider myself as an adventurer. I'm very curious, and I like to say think out of the box or work where no one ever stepped before. That made me very early being fascinated and curious about digital, its capacity to reach consumers in a different way, to be very targeted, have a lot of data, and bring more efficiency. So that what brought me, I would say, to digital kind of naturally. And then how it looked like back in the time, it was a revolution with everything that surrounds a revolution. Meaning, first, could some may think it completely crazy. Then they get afraid or frightened by digital, and finally, it has now become part of the day-to-day business and a standard for everyone.
And you joined this journey, let's say, of digital, as you said, very fascinated and very curious, but like you didn't have everything figured out from the beginning. So if you think back, what would you say were like the top two capabilities that you had to build?
The first one was bringing digital into the culture of the company, the colleagues. So first is understanding and break the fear. So explaining that digital will and has to be part and will anyway be part of our everyday life. So it's step by step, making them aware, demonstrating, testing things, not siloed, but bringing them to think differently, and explain them the value that it could create and could bring to anyone, no matter the business, whether you're online or offline. Digital plays a role. So that was, I would say, the major one, and that's a long journey of change management. That was very critical, and again, starting very small and demonstrating with rational and facts that it's not against the traditional way of doing business, but it's bringing value to it.
Mm-hmm. And like any experience like early on that you think is worth sharing that could be fun to hear about?
Yeah, well, actually, I have one, which is when I joined the French team as a digital lead. We were really in the early stages of digital media, and we were buying AdWords with our credit cards and putting that on expense because we didn't had any account, any flow to do this at scale. So that was the very beginning of kind of starter mode, I would say, in order to show the value of it, and that helped us scaling it. But that was a funny one.
Yeah. So then you went from like buying AdWords with your own credit card to basically leading the whole direct-to-consumer organization, now leading Amazon. For you personally, and if you have to reflect on yourself, how was it for you, that evolution from like individual contributor to leader?
Great. Actually, I only keep very good memories, even though it's not always a funny journey or an easy journey, because you have a lot of headwinds from everywhere in the organization. But again, but another example is when we started direct to consumer. In order to demonstrate what direct to consumer may look like, I remember creating a website by ourselves, then doing many things, almost everything manually, the preparation, the ordering, the shipping, the call center, just to demonstrate it. And for me, what really creates excitement for me is this role of being the first one, demonstrating things, kind of creating things by yourself, which is still plasticine in the beginning, but then you bring the others with you in order to scale it.
Yeah, and it feels so much like a lot of hustling on one side and probably a lot of frustration that comes with it, but also lots of excitement, like this entrepreneurship phase where you're like a startup within the company and then you're trying to scale this into the full-blown business. So it feels like a very enriching journey, at least the way that you describe it. And then François, you're now have taken over Amazon, the Amazon account. How did you make that decision?
Was not an easy one because I was having a lot of fun on direct to consumer for Europe. But basically, the company decided to create a European team in order to, with two major missions. The first one is to lead the European business of Amazon with the support of the teams that we have in all the countries in Europe, but also leading the transformation of the group and the company in order to scale and accelerate our business or step change our business with Amazon. And having those two missions of leading a business but also driving transformation is clearly something that sounds really exciting to me. Very similar, actually, somehow to what we did and what I did on direct to consumer, but at a different scale. And again, Amazon is Amazon, so I had to.
And how does your role work? Because you have like a European responsibility, but then there's the countries. So what's like your span of control, let's say?
So actually, that's an interesting question because initially, when we didn't have any European team, all markets were operating independently. But somehow Amazon is Amazon, and Amazon is the same whether you're in France, Germany, Spain, Italy. So the idea was first, well, Amazon moved to a more European organization themselves. So we had to also reflect this internally. And the second one, again, is to bring European efficiency by standardizing the way we work with Amazon, standardizing the tools, standardizing the processes, etc. So this is I would say the role and the value that this brings in terms of organization. Then we work hand in hand with the teams in the market. So I'm leading a team that is in charge of European management of the account. So basically, we are in charge of all the negotiations with Amazon, but also working in order to build the enablers for the markets for them to operate locally the business in their own marketplaces in the different countries.
Now that we have you here, François, and you're like the Amazon expert, I'm sure that our listeners will be very keen to explore a little bit more details on how does this huge business work. Like, could you give us a little bit more insights on the more operational part of Amazon? Like, for example, what's the difference between first-party and third-party sellers, or what's a vendor? How do you actually work with them?
Yeah, so at Groupe SEB, so far, we are operating mainly as a 1P player, and that's what we do for a decade for several reasons. The first one is
sorry, because maybe worth clarifying what 1P means and the 1P
yes.
and 3P model, and later and we can talk about how you work and then go into like the differences and so on.
Okay, sorry. So starting back. So first, what's the difference between 1P and 3P? So 1P, first party, is basically operating on Amazon as a vendor. So meaning you have a manufacturer-retailer relationship with Amazon. So
like a classical key account, no?
Exactly. So basically you sell products to Amazon, you have a contract with trade terms and conditions, and then you sell to Amazon, who is in charge of their sales and profitability for your products. Operating as 3P, meaning seller, is a different way, meaning you control and you're in charge of pretty much everything. And Amazon positions itself as just a platform. So you have access to Amazon as a platform, its traffic and its tools. And you are in charge of your listings, your operations, fulfillment, pricing, content, retail media, actually everything.
And currently at Groupe SEB, you're operating, like, well, how are you operating more with Amazon?
So at Groupe SEB, we operate mainly for a decade, actually, as 1P, because we have big brands, well-known brands, a significant size of the business, and a European footprint for sales and operations. So this is why we develop ourselves. And the size of our business makes it also relevant enough to get the right level of support from Amazon in order to develop our business there. Still, we have some minor brands or minor categories where we are also running some 3P operations. So as sellers, this also more as a test and learn in order to be prepared in case we want to accelerate on this.
Something I want to ask you, Francois, we're discussing it a little bit before the podcast as well, is Amazon not only as a selling platform, but also in terms of like a search engine or an advertising center, right? And a touch point. So what's your view on that? How do you approach this part of the platform?
Well, that's one common thing, actually, whether you're 1P or 3P, Amazon value proposition for their consumer is the same. So, and you're right, Amazon has become more and more a search engine, not only a retailer. So, and specifically for our categories, a lot of people are moving from Google to Amazon in order to look for information, discover new products, compare products. So, mastering our visibility on Amazon is a critical topic on two sides, organic one and the paid one. So the paid one through retail media and the organic one through all the levers that you may have in terms of content, of SEO, but also managing your actually mastering the Amazon algorithm. If someone can master it more than Amazon, I don't think so. But there are some key or known elements that you can influence to be positively ranked on Amazon.
Yeah, actually, how important is it, and also related to your role, to that retail media spend on Amazon, like that search spend on Amazon, that you're easily findable on Amazon? How important does it become for consumer electronics companies these days?
Very important, actually. Again, being visible on Amazon is a no-brainer. Basically, I remember, or you may remember, back in the times we're saying the best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of Google, but actually that's true for Amazon also. So if you're not on page 1, and even if you're not part of the top 5 items when you search for a product, no one will see you. So mastering this visibility is a key asset, and retail media is obviously getting more and more important. The challenge there is the efficiency of this, because it's easy to spend money on retail media, but it's another thing to make it profitable for you, and more and more there's more and more competition also on there. So again, that's Amazon becoming not only a retailer but also an advertising platform, similar to Google or the others.
And I guess for retail media now, more and more people are getting in the conversation, and people start to understand a little bit about it. Something that I've struggled a lot with getting through in the organization when it comes to e-commerce is also ratings and reviews and the importance of it, especially, I guess, like in the consumer electronics world, it must be even more important. Do you have any tips, or like how do you handle this part? Do you have like a strategy behind it, or is it more something that's happening organically by the consumers?
Yeah, but that's not an easy one. Again, because it's a never-ending story, or it's a constant improvement plan. Because what is true one day may not be true the day after. So first, monitoring precisely your rating and reviews, making sure that you have a plan should you have positive or negative reviews. And actually, as I like to say, is Amazon is basically mirroring the reality of your business and your products. So if at some point you have a product with a lot of negative reviews, there's always something rational behind, which may lead either your content is not clear enough for the consumer, so you have to adjust this content, or you may have an issue with your products, and then that's a great way to get quick insights and improve this in a very fast and easy way. Then turning this into reality may be hard for brands, because the feedbacks and the insights they usually get faster than our ability to react.
And Francois, you've been in this role now for coming up to a year. Normally, role cycles are like 3 years. Well, we don't want to put any pressure on Groupe SEB to promote you again, but that's normally the cycle of a role. But was going to ask you, what's your vision for the business of Groupe SEB with Amazon for the next 2 years? Like, where do you want to bring it to?
Very good question again. So what is sure is that we have a few challenges when it comes to Amazon that are not only for Groupe SEB, I think, but for most of the brand, is that Amazon is a giant and will keep increasing. And when we look at the last results from Amazon, obviously they are accelerating big times, top line, but also bottom line, and putting a lot of stress on their profit, which is somehow putting also pressure on brands because they are reducing the level of support that they provide to brands, specifically when you are a vendor, 1P. You get less and less, you may get less and less support from Amazon. So Amazon will more and more become a platform with services that you can access as brand. So our challenge and the challenge I think for most of the brand is how do we catch the growth opportunities on Amazon by managing our profit and bottom line also, because we're having more and more stress internally on all the operations are being transferred directly to the brands. So that's one. So basically, if I narrowed it to Groupe SEB, obviously Amazon is a big pillar for us now and for the future. But then again, the synthesis would be how do we structure ourselves to manage profitable growth on Amazon for the next 2, 5, 6, 10 years.
François, you've had a very long digital journey. You've seen a little bit of everything. If you were to go back at the beginning of your career, now that you've had all this experience, what is the one piece of advice that you would give your younger self?
Actually, the advice that I would give to myself 10, 15 years ago would be the leader you wish to have, or be the change that you want to see, embody completely what you want to make to see as a change, because again, it's really hard it's really easy to think and have ideas, really hard to get people to follow you, and that requires leadership, and you're not born as a leader, you grow as a leader, and helping the entire company to change requires this leadership, and that starts with trying things, being empathetic, discipline, commitment, and openness with the rest of the team. So I would say do that, try, fail, do not be afraid of failing, and be bold.
This was François Mayor, head of Amazon Europe at Groupe SEB. Christina, what are your key takeaways from this conversation? It went quick, didn't it?
It did go by very quickly. I think, Daniel, it was one of the most interesting conversations because it was also a little bit more on the practical side of let's really talk about Amazon and how they do business. And evidently, I think anyone who has done business with Amazon can say so. It's not a simple thing. It's quite complex, actually. It's a really good experience for the consumer who's buying from Amazon. But if you look at what's happening in the back, there is a lot of work.
Yeah, I think also it's obviously, I think Amazon has been like a catalyst for the whole industry to ramp up e-commerce because they've really pushed it. But I think that the Amazon that we've known in these years is about to change. I think that that's my main takeaway, that they're changing basically their business model and basically going from that 1P model in which they act like a standard retailer with top-to-top negotiations, and basically you sell to them and they fulfill to you. That's going to be more and more complicated to do every time as Amazon pushes for profit.
Yes, and also if you look at the 3P model, they've got their Amazon FBA, so the fulfilled by Amazon. So they've got this amazing logistics infrastructure that they can take advantage of in a way that's way more profitable for them. So I guess it would only make sense to see more change towards that direction. And as François also mentioned, it's kind of like a platform that offers a lot of different services. And these are amazing services that can get you very much in touch and engage with your consumer. But you're paying for all of this, and it's kind of a hefty price.
Yeah.
And but I guess like this is what's making Amazon such a big focus for many companies as well, not only because it's such a big key account, but also because it does require a lot of effort and a full team to work behind it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think probably it will just be interesting to see how this evolves, because obviously the strategic importance of Amazon is not going away. He did allude to like the investment in search and in paid in Amazon. That is easy
Absolutely.
to spend, but also like to calculate the revenue coming from there. Not only it's important, but it's also complicated, because like it's no longer not only a performance thing, but it's also like the whole upper funnel part.
It is very much the upper funnel part. And it's not just now. Well, we've seen all this, let's say, news with Google losing some of its search engines.
Yeah.
It's overall people going into Amazon when they're looking for products and they start their shopper journey there, especially when it comes to parts of the industry such as the consumer electronics, where you get a lot of comparisons on the specific metrics. You can see a lot of the ratings and reviews, read the user-generated content, and get something that feels less of an advertisement to you and rather more genuine, let's say, review of a product, which helps you make a decision. And does not mean that you're going to transact there. You might, because Amazon has pretty good prices, but you might just transact somewhere else. And it just operates, as you said, as an upper funnel kind of channel.
Yeah. So I think that the big challenge, as François said, is like how to catch growth opportunities with Amazon, because the growth is there, but capturing it is not only, as we've said other times, not only about being there, but how you turn up and really
how you do so profitably, right?
Yeah.
That's kind of the even bigger question that companies have to answer.
Exactly. Well, thanks, Christina, for your takeaways as always. I'm glad that you're here, because I wouldn't be able to do it as well. Thanks, François, also for coming to the show. Thanks to our audience for engaging. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review. We ask for this a lot of times, and I know you're being naughty because you're not leaving as many reviews as we're asking for. So please take 2 minutes of your time, leave a review. You'll make us really, really happy. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next episode of the FMC.